Hi, and welcome to Relationships and Astrology series on Love and the Planets. And this time we're talking about the week that begins on March 13th of 2017. I'm Armand Diaz in New York.
And I'm Margaret Gray in Dublin.
Margaret, what are your thoughts for the week, the beginning week with the moon in Libra?
It's kind of really an interesting week, I think, because, of course, Mercury, which is the planet of communication, changes signs into Aries. And I think this is particularly important for lots of reasons. The first one is that we have been swamped with Neptunian energies. So we've really been in this amazing kind of floaty, imaginative, spiritual realm. But it doesn't help in terms of communication, because with Mercury being in Pisces all this time, there's been a lot of confusion, and there can be mix-ups in emails and not quite being able to express, what we're really mean to express. So I think this is going to be a huge shift, Mercury going into Aries. I mean, it really, going from water to fire, it means that it's much more dynamic, much quicker, much easier to pinpoint. So I think that's going to create a huge shift in energies in terms of relationships. What do you think?
Well, we've had a lot of fire energy. Mars has been in Aries, and Venus retrograding in Aries now, Uranus in Aries. So in a way, Mercury's coming ahead and joining the party. It certainly will, I think, make for us easier communication, more direct for certain, if not actually impulsive. But certainly more direct communication. With Mercury and Pisces, I think you have to listen to the tone and how things are presented to really get the full message. I think, this is liable to be short and to the point, and that can help. We also have Mars has come into Taurus, which brings some Earth into the picture. So I do think that it is going to be a little bit more workable energy, a little bit more sense of certainty.
Yes, and I agree with you that, Mercury in Aries is so direct. And of course, it's not renowned for being the most tactful Mercury, in that it can say things very quickly, very impulsively, and not really remember what it said later, or really have given it much thought to the feelings of the other person. So it might be, wise to kind of think a little bit carefully before we speak in relationships, over the next period of time. And I love the one of the posts that often comes up on Facebook, is it kind, is it true, or is it necessary before we actually say something to someone? So that might be helpful during this Mercury in Aries time.
And the moon in Libra, well, the moon in Libra as the week begins should, kind of help. It should kind of help. The Libra moon will add a little bit of graciousness and tact, so to get us started, sort of remind us about minding our manners as Mercury goes into Aries. Although then the Libra moon, as she does every month lately, has to contend with squaring Pluto and opposing Uranus, which is not the easiest.
Yes, and also on Tuesday, the Sun is conjunct Chiron in Pisces. So I think that's an interesting one, because whenever I think the Sun is conjunct something like Chiron, it can bring us up that sense of existential loneliness, I think, within each of us, and also issues of codependency. So I think it's, issues might come up like, do I love this person, or am I with them out of loneliness? What's my real motive for staying in relationship, or for being with this person, or for hanging out with these friends, or whatever. So that's going to be an interesting energy thrown in there at the beginning of the week as well.
With a little, that'll be at the point when the moon is really making its more challenging aspects, and it could indeed be, it can sort of open things up and bring them out there, and it could be good to sort of keep a little perspective on things and not and not overreact. And not to act out. And then as we get to midweek, the moon goes into Scorpio.
Yet again, just in time for St. Patrick's Day, of course, on the 17th. So that's going to be interesting, because, of course, by then we've also got the Sun square Saturn. So that's going to be an interesting dynamic. What do you think of this Sun square Saturn aspect in terms of relationships?
Well, I think Sun square Saturn is something that can bring us down. Saturn tends to deflate the ego. And in Pisces, it could sort of deflate the fantasy. Not the fantasy itself, but, it's the sun in Pisces. So it's the part of the fantasy that we've identified with and invested in. And then Saturn comes around the sun comes around to Saturn, and Saturn says, well, no, this isn't the way things are. And can kind of let a lot of air out of the balloon. And that can hurt a little bit. By then, I think the moon will have gone into Sagittarius, which will hopefully lend a little bit of an upbeat feel to it. It may not be the most raucous St. Patrick's Day ever. I don't know how things are in Ireland. In New York, it's a little bit too much celebration.
Well, everything is green in the US when it's St. Patrick's Day, a lot greener even than here in Ireland. So,
especially the sidewalks.
Yes. So, yeah, I think you go much more all out than we even do. But, here in Ireland, the moon isn't going to go into Sag until 11 p.m. in the evening that day. So it means that the earlier part of celebrations might still be with that moon in Scorpio. So maybe to expect a little bit of intensity, it might just not be as lighthearted. But if people stay up longer, and it's a weekend, so I think there might be some fun at that point.
Yeah, I agree that the moon in Scorpio throughout most of St. Patrick's Day will be will lend a sober sort of feeling to a time which is perhaps not all that sober. And there could be seriousness, there could be a little bit of a sense of underlying, I don't want to say dread, but concern that is prominent at the time. And it may be later on Friday if folks manage to stay up that long, that things lighten up, and perhaps then on Saturday too.
Yes, and then on Saturday, then of course we've got Venus conjunct Mercury in Aries. So that's one of two meetings that will happen. And here we have Hermes and Aphrodite. So this might also lead to kind of a reviewing of past relationships, maybe in quite a positive light, that it might be kind of looking at all the good things we experienced with somebody and really just going through that whole process in our mind, but in quite a positive way, hopefully.
Talking it out, not even necessarily with anybody else, talking it out, journaling, getting your feelings out there, doing a little bit of review. It's a very fiery day though. So, because the moon in Sag and we have planets in Aries, it could be a more upbeat time as well. Perhaps after perhaps even more fun than St. Patrick's Day itself.
So maybe some time to go out, do some activity, go walking or hiking or do something nice, assuming the weather is good enough. So it's going to be quite an interesting week, isn't it? It's kind of quite a shift through the week of the energies. So in terms of relationships, just really taking care of ourselves, taking care of each other, watching what we say, maybe being a little tactful, trying to be a little tactful, and just knowing that Tuesday might feel a little ouchy with that Sun conjunct Chiron in Pisces, that some things may come up, and then to prepare to have some fun maybe the second part of the weekend.
I think so. And Tuesday is liable to be a little ouchy, and the moon in Scorpio in easy aspects may help us to unpack that pain and actually work with it in a constructive way as we sort of bring the work week to a conclusion. So maybe in its own way the Scorpio moon is helping.
Yes, we certainly can't avoid our emotions, can we, with it? It's like we have to really try and tune in. So we might as well tune in consciously and be aware of what's going on. And, probably we'll also be more in touch with other people's emotions because the moon in Scorpio does that. So to kind of try and differentiate as well, what's mine and what's somebody else's, because we might be, particularly sensitive to what's going on all around us.
Yeah, that's a very good point.
So wishing everyone a wonderful St. Patrick's Day, and we will be back the following week with more information on the transits and relationships.
See you then.
Take care. Bye-bye.